Okay, everybody, let's get started. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Very, very happy to be here today. What a blessing to be alive and to have this opportunity. So today I'm wearing a flower crown that I made just for y'all. And the reason that I'm wearing this crown is because we as Muslim women, as Muslim girls, we have this really great opportunity to look forward to wearing crowns in Jannah. And I would really, really, really love, I would really, really, really love that every single person here, every single very special girl gets to wear her crown in Jannah. And so I thought that even though I don't have crowns, I went to the store and got flowers and just made a little crown as a reminder that one day all of you guys are going to have crowns in Jannah, inshallah, and you guys are going to be the queens of Jannah, inshallah. And so I want everyone to really look forward to being a queen in Jannah, inshallah. That's going to be where your palace is. That's going to be where you are treated like a queen, okay, by all the favors of Allah. Assalamu alaikum, Sabrine. Welcome to the meeting. So today, what I was saying is that we are, so Asma is here too. So what I was saying is that we are looking forward, to, inshallah, our crowns in Jannah. And that's why Asma and myself made these little crowns. I want to show you Asma's crown. Come here, Asma. Come here. Wait, come sit on front of me. Okay, this is Asma's crown. Okay. One day, so this is me and Asma's crown. And what we want to do is remind ourselves that we as Muslim women, as Muslim girls, inshallah, we're going to wear crowns in Jannah. Okay. And right now, even though these crowns are made of flowers, we're going to have crowns of jewels, and each jewel is going to be more sparkling than the entire world and all the stars and all the light in the whole heavens and the earth. Okay. So I do want to have that as like a little, celebration for us to look forward to, that we are going to wear these crowns in Jannah. And I want us to really look forward to that day and that time. I want us to put our whole heart and soul into renewing our intentions, into renewing our intentions that we want to wear these crowns in Jannah, inshallah, and that we want to be women of paradise, and that is our final home, and that is the home that we strive for, and that we look forward to, and that we are earning with every single deed that we do, and that we do our deeds with love, and that we do our deeds with care. Okay, and so that is what we want to do, is renew our intention, renew our shahada always. So in your heart, always say, once again, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Renew your intention. Try to be that Muslimah who has such a pure intention from the bottom of your heart. And that relates with some of the topics that we have today, inshallah. We have some very good topics today that we're going to talk about, including today, we're going to talk about the topics of miserliness, wantonness, and heedlessness. These are qualities which are in the heart, and they are deficiencies which are in the heart, okay? And they really have to do with our spirituality. I also want to touch upon the fact that we have something to look forward to, which is, we're going to talk about it, inshallah, towards the end before our Kahoot game, which is, inshallah, as we are learning about the deficiencies in our heart and in our spirituality, we're also going to be preparing for something which is going to strengthen our iman in practice, which is all about the salah. And the way to wear your crown in Jannah is not only to purify yourself spiritually, but also to strengthen your salah and prayer. So we're going to have an opportunity to have like a little bit of a competition later this month about the teachings that we learn about salah, to perfect and solidify our salah, because as we are purifying ourselves, we're also strengthening ourselves. I'll tell you, for example, today I'll give you a little bit of insight into my personal life. For example, today, I drank this juice that I made, which was really kind of to purify and to cleanse. It had like cucumber, celery, carrots, ginger, lemon, water, all kinds. Why was I drinking that? To kind of purify, all those toxins that get into our body. But then I was also using my muscles when I exercised. So I exercised, I used weights. Why? Because while we're purifying ourselves and getting the toxins out, we also have to exercise and make ourselves stronger. And so as we're learning about these diseases of the heart, we're trying to purify ourselves, to prepare ourselves to be these pure queens, of Jannah. But at the same time, we have to strengthen ourselves. And the way you strengthen yourself is by learning to pray properly, okay? And so some of these things that we're going to talk about today, inshallah, briefly, today it's really out of the Hamza Yusuf book. And so I'm going to pop over to that book, inshallah. The first of 3 is called Miserliness, okay? Miserliness. So as we know, miserliness is something where a person does not want to spend properly from what they're given. As we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us a certain amount. He's allocated rizq for us, right? Now, in that, we have to do some things for ourselves, for our family, right? We have to spend, sometimes we have to spend maybe for zakat, maybe to support, to feed our children, to feed each other, maybe to donate something that's not gonna benefit us at that moment. But if you donate to a masjid, if you donate to an Islamic school, what are you doing? You're spending from yourself. And we learned about this concept of spending so many times when we read through the Quran, right? But a person who has this deficiency in their heart called miserliness is a person who is so stingy that they don't want to spend even for the things that are fard. So for example, they don't want to spend on zakat. They don't want to spend even to feed their families and children properly. They don't want to spend to donate something to share with maybe another poor person, to donate something for an Islamic center, for a masjid. They don't want to, give from themselves because they just want to hold on to this money because they want to be miserly. And this miserliness is a deficiency. It can be a sin when you're miserly in a situation where it's a fard, let alone, extra. But I mean, the sin is when you're miserly and you're stingy in a situation which is fard for you to spend, and especially if you have the money, okay? And so a quality of a Muslim, of course, is to not only give what they're supposed to give, but to really be generous. Our goal is to be generous and to realize, that we're looking forward to getting our return from Allah, and that we have compassion towards others around us, that we have love that we want to share. But this miserliness can be a quality which really hurts our spirituality. And let's look a little bit further down what it says. It says from the Holy Quran, "O you who believe," and this is from Surah 2, verse 267. Allah says, "O you who believe, spend from the good things you have earned and from what we brought out for you from the earth, and do not seek what is inferior in order to spend from it, though you yourself would not take it unless your eyes were closed to it. And know that God is ever rich and worthy of praise." Okay, so here we see this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to spend of that which we have earned and what Allah has given us, right? And also, and remember, we talked about this when we were in Ramadan, when we said, don't give something that even you would not want yourself, right? So let's say you have enough food and you have enough everything, and finally, when you do give something, if it's something so terrible that even you would not want that thing, don't give that thing. You should give something good, that has a good standard. So this is, these good standards are qualities of the Muslim, right? And miserliness and being stingy and being so worried about provision till it consumes you and makes you like this mean person. You don't want to be around others. This quality is something we have to purify ourselves from. Also, Allah tells us in Surah 3, verse 92, "You will not attain righteousness until you spend of what you love." You will not attain righteousness until you spend of what you love. This is a very true lesson. It's in the Quran. It's a very, very true lesson for us because, see, the way it works is that we end up loving those things, okay? We end up loving those things that we earned, with our hard work. Yes. It is natural if you work hard and you save some money or you acquire, you know, these clothes that you went shopping. No, it is natural for you to love those things, right? Or you cook something, you know, you're gonna love that thing that you worked so hard to get, yeah? And then the fact that we have these duties on ourselves to give something from that, naturally, you're gonna have to give something that you love. You're gonna have to. Sometimes, in order to keep your family relationships, some people will come visit and they will stay maybe in your bedroom. They will use your restroom and you have to wait. You know, they will, you know, they will be in your kitchen when you don't want them to be, or whatever. They'll play with your toys. Those are things that are like yours, like your toys,
No.
your things. Everybody, your things are your things. You're used to, you know, being attached to those things, but if you have to maintain your family relationships and somebody comes to visit you and they stay in the weekend, they're gonna use your things. They're gonna take things that you love. They might eat that last chocolate chip cookie, you were saving it for yourself. They might say, oh, this is such a nice outfit, can I have it? And then you might feel like you have to share it, or maybe you wanted to keep all of those, whatever it is, you know, you're gonna be in situations where you end up having to give from that which you love. But guess what? That is the test, and that's okay. If you gave something that you loved, that was part of the exact experience that Allah wanted you to have. Don't feel like you lost something. You were supposed to love that thing, and you were supposed to give from that thing, okay? And that is how it's supposed to be. It's like this. It's like when you go to the doctor and you get that injection, and yet you know that you needed to get that injection, right? You know you need that vaccination. It's just a requirement because there is a benefit which is proven, you know, that you have to get that injection. And part of that benefit, part of, you know, being safe from all the rest of the harm out there is to get that little pain that goes in your arm, okay? It's to get that pain that goes in your arm of that injection. So that little pain is what it feels like when you share from that which you love. So this is something that applies to us, not just at your age, but all throughout our life, okay? And we are also told on this page, and I'm on page 18 of Hamza Yusuf, generosity is one of the highest virtues of Islam and one of the manifest qualities of the Prophet Muhammad, who was known as the most generous of people. The word for generosity is derived from karam, which also means nobility. In fact, one of the most excellent names of God is Kareem. Okay, so for those of us that are joining in, we were talking about how one day all of you special, beautiful girls are going to, inshallah, be queens in Jannah. And in Jannah, you're going to wear a crown. You are going to have your palace. You're going to have your servants. You're going to have everything. And today, Asma and I were wearing these crowns that we just made by hand. And they're not the crowns made of jewels, but we just got some flowers and we made a crown as a reminder that one day we all want to be queens in Jannah that wear our crowns, inshallah. So that is what we are all looking for. We want to renew our intention, inshallah. Okay, so back to this quality. So also Imam Ali, it says on page 19 that Imam Ali said the worst person is the miser. And that's true, because if you think about it, if you want to go to an educational program, you know, a camp, a conference, a competition, Islamic competition, you're going to have to spend some money on registration, on gas. You may have to take half a day off from work or a weekend off from work. If you want to buy an Islamic book, it's going to cost you some money. You have to do some spending, right? You may have to, you know, there's a number of things that could happen. Now, if you're a miser and if you're stingy, you're not going to be able to do those things because you're going to care about holding on to your money way too much. And then you're going to miss so many opportunities, right? So it's really important that we understand how important it is that we are willing to spend for the right reasons, and that can be beneficial, and that we are going to get the reward of that, you know, inshallah. And spending for the sake of Allah, Islam, you're not gonna, it's not the same thing as when you go and you only spend, let's say, only on clothes and accessories and jewelry. Because if you're just spending on like only your house and your car and your clothes, and those things, you know, are like kind of like things of the dunya, materialistic, you know, yes, it shows, you know, that in the dunya, you know, you have something. But when you sometimes spend for the purpose of for the sake of Allah, for Islam, you may not see those things, right? So it's like if you gave money to buy a book, you might feel like, well, that's a purse I could have gotten instead. That's another pair of shoes or earrings. You might feel like, oh, you know, if I go and spend on a registration for this convention or for something, oh, that's, you know, that's another, some furniture I didn't get in my house. And that's true. But, you know, as we know, you know, there is a true, we have to believe that there is really a benefit when we spend for the sake of Allah, you know, so even when you spend for like educational purposes, this is the type of spending you're going to be rewarded for. So back to this concept of miserliness. Yes, so there is, yes, there is some treatments that they talk about for miserliness, and it really just has to do with thinking about some of these reasons not to be miserly and to think about the value of spending, you know, for the sake of Allah. The next quality, the next deficiency is wantonness. Wantonness actually has to do, it's a similar overlapping topic with miserliness. And here, wantonness, and this is a Kahoot question, the way you define wantonness is it's an uncontrollable desire to need and want more, okay? So in Arabic, it's batar, and the word batar has several meanings, which is the inability to bear blessings, bewilderment, dislike of something undeserving of dislike, reckless extravagance. Okay, so as we know, we talked about the concept of having contentment in your heart, having this sense of being very happy and at peace and calm that whatever Allah gave you is enough, and to not have this excessive greed to keep wanting more. You know, it is a problem when we keep wanting more. So wantonness can be a disease. This disease is when you have this desire to continuously need and want more. So let's say, you know, you have like 3 planners that you bought from Office Depot or Walmart or Barnes & Noble. You have planners, but then you find yourself wanting every single planner that you come across in every store. Or like you have a set of like already like 30 highlighters or like 25 great ink pens that you have. You can use those, but now you become obsessed with getting every single cool pen and cool highlighter like from every store, okay? Like all of Amazon has to be like on your desk or something. You know, it's like constantly wanting more and not just being okay with what you have. So we have to be people who are happy and okay with what we have. This is something important. And wantonness is when we are, like it says, inability to bear blessings. That means if you bear a blessing, you have to acknowledge you have that blessing and be content with that. But if you have that inability where you keep wanting more, this creates like the spiritual problem in your heart, okay? Let's go to the next one. All right. So yes, and you know what Hamza Yusuf says also on page 20, wantonness is a disease to which the world's affluent societies are particularly vulnerable, okay? So what's very interesting about the concept of wantonness is the people who have more actually have this disease more, okay? So if you are one of these societies or these people who have every designer dress, every designer purse and shoes, you may be a person who keeps wanting more and more, and you're never fully happy with what you have. So if you have like 10 designer dresses that are like super expensive, and then you just keep wanting like 20 or 30 is not enough, you keep wanting more and more. This, you know, it's very interesting that sometimes people who already have so much are the people who have that disease in their heart. And once again, these diseases are things you can't see them with your eyes, but it's a quality that you have in your heart, okay? Also, it talks about one of the, so it gives a few treatments for this. One of the treatments for wantonness, which is recommended here in this book, is fasting. So fasting can be one of the solutions. Another thing that it says, a second remedy is to remember death and the hereafter. So when you read more about the reality of death, when you remember death, you know, then you don't become so overly fixated on this dunya and acquiring more, because you're remembering the reality of death, okay? And so, you know, one of the, when we look at the section about ghafla, it also tells us to remember death. So for example, if there's a janazah or something, you know, try to go and try to see, you know, the person who is going through this experience of being put in the grave. Try to remember that we're going to be there as well. You know, our life is going to end. So remembering death is one of the solutions. Also, if you go a little bit further down on this page, it says, even as one drives, he or she is accosted by billboard advertisements that show the faces of wantonness, people in ecstatic postures, exaggerated smiles, gaping mouths, showing their supreme happiness because of owning a kind of car or smoking behind a certain brand of cigarette, or guzzling a special brand of beer or alcohol that destroys the lives and minds. So, basically what he's saying, what Hamza Yusuf is saying, is that we have this culture where we're surrounded by these advertisements of people really having this wantonness. This is something which is kind of like more and more reinforced in our culture. Okay, next we're going to talk about ghafla. Now we're running on time, so the page on ghafla I think is 76. Oh, nope. Okay, and so ghafla, as I'm finding this page, ghafla is honestly probably the most important one that I want to go over, because this is something that really afflicts Muslims when we're trying to practice Islam. Ghafla is something that is really constricting. Heedlessness, page 72. Let me go to 72 here. Heedlessness. Okay, so ghafla, and it will be on your Kahoot when you're asked how to define ghafla. It is when you find, when you have a lack of attention to what's really important according to Islam, okay? When you have a lack of attention, and a lack of care to the fard ibadah in the way that it should be, because you're so consumed by worldly things, okay? That is what ghafla is. And one of the most supreme types of ghafla, which is in this book, in this page, I'm on page 72 of Hamza Yusuf, says being heedless of divine purpose. So heedlessness, that means you're not really giving the proper care, the proper attention, the proper importance. You're not giving importance to the reality of our belief and practice that we should have. Instead, you're consumed with being distracted with the dunya. And so the biggest form of ghafla is being heedless of your purpose itself, okay? Also accountability, being heedless of the resurrection, the standing in front of Allah, and the judgment in the hereafter. And I know all of you are very smart, and I hope that you can understand what these sort of terms mean. He goes on page 73 to say the ultimate trauma of heedlessness then is not seeing things the way they truly are. It is choosing a way of living that allows divine signs to pass one up without notice. The Prophet supplicated that God the Exalted show him things in their reality, distinguished and clear. He said, show me the truth as truth, and give me the accountability to follow it, and show me falsehood as falsehood, and give me the ability to avoid it. Imam Maulud says, ghafla is also heedlessness of God, of what God has commanded and what he has prohibited, or seeing the difference between the two is irrelevant. Okay, so I'll give you a very common example when we have ghafla in our prayer. Okay, our prayer, our salah, is fard on us, which is why we're going to be practicing strengthening that pillar for ourselves. A prayer is a fard on us, but when we are so consumed with distractions of the dunya and the comforts and the pleasures of our daily life, that number one, that we ignore the reality that this is part of our purpose. Number one, this is a form of ghafla. If you're late in your prayer, if you're inattentive in your prayer, if you're not caring about the details of the fard of prayer, these are ways that we can have ghafla. And this ghafla is very serious, because it is a pollution in our heart. It is a deficiency. It's a spiritual ill. It's a spiritual disease. And it really messes up, our ibadah, because you're doing your ibadah, but if you have ghafla, you've really ruined your ibadah, because you're not getting that full meaning and purpose and the full reward. You're not getting, in fact, you're getting sins, so having ghafla, as we know in Surah, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions ghafla, woe to those who are heedless in their prayers, woe to those who are heedless in their prayers. So maybe it is part of the prayer, it's not like we're in some war zone, like we read the other day, that even if you're in a war, even if people are coming, your enemy is coming to attack you. I think it was this week we read that, if the enemy is coming to attack you, so you still have to pray. So here we are, we're not facing an enemy, we're comfortable in our home, and yet if we are late to pray, if we don't care to really make the proper, preparations to pray in the correct way, if we have ghafla, then this is a very big sin. It's a very big loss. It's extremely big tragedy. And so we have to be careful about this ghafla. And there are some treatments mentioned here on page 73. It says the first one is to seek repentance. So of course we have to always seek repentance. One Kahoot question, it says that we're encouraged to seek repentance how many times a day? The Prophet encouraged us 70 to 100 times a day, according to the Prophet's teachings. Okay, this is how many times we should seek repentance. So imagine, imagine how many times a day, let's give it an analogy. How many times a day do you care about cleaning or washing your hands? Imagine ever since COVID started, the lockdown, we are so careful to pump that sanitizer, to wash our hands, to clean the surfaces. Everything, we're so careful, right? We just, it's not just in the whole day, maybe one time, maybe we skip a day, we don't wash our hands. How many times you go to the bathroom, you wash, you go take a shower. Some people are taking multiple showers a day, 2-3 showers a day. You eat your utensils, you're washing them. We're always careful about these germs. If you count that, that's easily 70, 100. How many times is it? Every time we do that, make istighfar, because istighfar, we're encouraged not to forget the istighfar until Laylatul Qadr. That's a Kahoot question. We're not saying just do one time a day. All through the day, we have to do our istighfar. This is a purification, and it is also a remedy for heedlessness. It reminds us about Allah. The second recommendation that we're given here is to visit righteous people. Okay, visit righteous people who enjoy rank with Allah. Okay, and we know this is, there's so much benefit to visiting righteous people, right? Because, and as I asked in the Kahoot question, that the righteous people, they're going to remind you to do the good stuff. If they see you, the prayer time is passing, they're going to remind you, let's go pray, right? You can't go to a party with the righteous people and they skip the prayer. Also, if they see you doing the wrong, they're going to remind you. They're not going to encourage you to do the bad stuff. They're not going to say, let's go drink some alcohol. Let's go do this. Righteous people visiting and staying in their good company is very, very important, and it is one of the remedies of ghafla. Also, as I mentioned here, the third recommendation is to visit graves. Okay, to visit the graveyard, to go to janazah. These things remind us. And for me, so I was born in Bangladesh. I came to America when I was 2 years old, but for the first, I would say 12 years, I think I was 12 before I actually went back. And that whole time up to 6th grade, like in America, I had never seen like a real dead body. Like I had never really seen a dead body in front of me. And it's like I was living in this fantasy world or something. And then after that, when I went back at a time when I could really understand, like in 6th grade, ever since then, we started going more regularly every couple of years or something. When I went back to my home country of Bangladesh, I saw real dead bodies in front of me. When someone died, like if it's somebody down the block and somebody died, everybody would go and they would see the dead body, and that body would get prepared to have a janazah. And for the first time, I started seeing like dead bodies, and it made my perspective change so much. It made me realize, oh my God, this body that I have is gonna die, and I'm gonna be like that. And then, in that country, you don't really go to a janazah if you're a woman, but here in America, you can go, like yesterday there was a janazah, you can go, and it helps you realize really, even if you just go up to the masjid and you see that coffin and you see, people, kind of stopping and grieving and that loss, it's a reminder, it's a reminder for all of us that the temporary, nature of this life. And so we need to sometimes do that for our benefit to get out of the ghafla that we all go into. Also, we're advised here on page 74, when visiting righteous people, the discourse or the conversation is to be substantive and not idle talk. So, you visit a righteous person, talk something substantive. It doesn't have to be the whole time. Yes, you can, but sometimes bring some conversation which is meaningful and substantive, a good reminder. This is like a rizq for you. And not just only like idle talk, okay? And then, excuse me, it says, on the next paragraph, it says, just as one is recommended to visit the righteous, one should strive to be the righteous person that the others seek out to visit, And so, not only should we visit righteous people, we should also try to make ourselves better. And then, see if there's anything else left here. Yes, so the fourth cure for heedlessness is the recitation of the Quran. Recitation of the Quran and reflection, okay, reflection of the Quran. So, of course, we recite the Quran, but we also need to look at the meaning and really spend time, give ourselves that time where we can just think about the meaning, what's there. Give ourselves the space. I know that in this dunya, Most of the time we're like rushing to everything. But when it comes to the Quran, we need to give ourselves time where we're not rushing, that we just sit and we really take extra time to like reflect, even if it's over a small piece. This is really going to help us to deepen our understanding of life, to really come to terms with our purpose, and also to remove the ghafla. You know, for example, in our prayer, you know, we may just take it for granted, as we mentioned last time. We may just, but the more we recite the Quran and try to reflect, it'll make us feel like this is really, really important. Let's see what else we have in this book. And if not, I have a couple of things from the other book. We might just go a couple of minutes over, inshallah. So I did want to mention a little bit about ghafla from this book that we have here, because once again, touching on the topic of social media, what does that have to do with ghafla? In chapter 6, we see, you know, once again, Surah 30, verse 7, it says, they know what is apparent of the worldly life and hereafter. They know what they are, and of the hereafter, they are heedless. They are ghafilun. Okay, so to be a person who is ghafilun, this is a word, a serious word, a scary word, which Allah uses in the Quran, that when you are ghafil of the hereafter. Okay, and another example of a verse, Surah 7, verse 179, and surely we have created many of the jinn and mankind for hell. They have hearts with which they do not understand. They have eyes with which they do not see. They have ears with which they do not hear. They are like cattle. Rather, they are more astray. It is they who are the ghafilun, the heedless ones, okay? And so I'm going to give you some examples, and I wanted to ask you guys, which of these is ghafla? And I'm going to unmute you. Feel free to kind of like shout out your answer. I just have a few examples on page 33 of this book. Some of these are ghafla, some of these are not ghafla. If it is ghafla, just let me know. Yes, I think that is ghafla. So, for example, and these are social media induced ghafla, okay? Social media induced ghafla. So, for example, you raise your head from Snapchat and see that you missed a prayer. Is that ghafla? When you raised your head from Snapchat and you saw that you missed prayer, can anybody tell me what they think? I want to hear your voice. Did I, this is unmute. Is there anybody who thinks that that is ghafla?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. See,
Yes.
that's the right answer. So if you are on Snapchat and like you're just so immersed into this Snapchat, and then you look up and you're like, oh my goodness, you know, and it's like already 5:30, you didn't pray dhuhr, and you realize you just missed a prayer. You know, this is an example of ghafla because it is so consuming to you. Another one, you share a loving picture of you and your mom. If you're on social media and you share a loving picture of you and your mom, is there anything wrong with that? Nothing. That is
No.
not, it's not an example.
No, nothing's wrong with that.
Another example of ghafla, your mom is talking to you, but you can't even hear her because you're just scrolling. You can't even hear your mom. Yeah,
That's ghafla.
that is ghafla because you are so immersed that you can't even hear your own mother. How about another one? It says you're nervous about a test, but to escape it, you just scroll through your social media. And then when you finally feel better, you look at the clock and it's midnight. That is ghafla as well. That's heedlessness. That's an example. So you are so worried for the test that you did not study for the test. You're just like, forget it. Let me just keep looking in my social media. And then when you look up, it's already midnight. It's like too late to study now. That's an example. Here's another question. You share a hadith with your halaqah Facebook group. Hadith.
Nothing.
Facebook group. Do you think this is ghafla?
No.
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 Hadith with your Facebook group. This is a good thing you're doing. It's not ghafla. You're reminding somebody of something good. How about this? You're so immersed in your Instagram feed that 3 hours passed by and you missed your lunch. You missed lunchtime because you're so immersed in your Instagram. What do you think?
I think it is.
Yes, this is an example, right? Because you got so immersed that you just even skipped your own self-care to eat your lunch. Okay, we know what happens when we don't do our basic, self-care. And this is a related topic. The social media, sometimes if we're not doing self-care, if you're missing your sleep, you're missing your food and your drink, but you're so deep into YouTube or into, accounts, your personal accounts and all that, that you are missing your self-care. This will affect you. It will affect others around you. It can affect your worship, and it will just affect your experience in life. We know what happens when that happens, but we have to realize we have to take care of it. How about you watch an Islamic Sira lecture on Facebook Live? You watch it.
No.
That is a good thing. That is a good thing. Okay, so these are just some examples. In fact, if it's okay with you, I have a little story. I think this is also about ghafla. It says, it's a story. It says, Selma was a 9th grader at Cedar Valley High School. She had gone to Sunday school her whole life. She cared about her prayers and considered herself to be a proud Muslim. A lot of her friends started using social media. So Selma got a few different accounts herself, and it was fun to keep them up to date. Selma kept her smartphone plugged into the charger next to her bed. Night after night, she found herself scrolling into the wee hours, especially on weekends. Suddenly, she noticed it was hard to wake up and catch Fajr. Selma would get home from a long day after school and unwind in her room. Although it served as an escape, Selma would lose track of time. There were times when she looked up from her phone and realized she missed an entire fard prayer like Asr or Maghrib. Selma started getting a sick feeling to her stomach about how fast time was passing by. She started to realize she was behind on her goals, and if this continued, she couldn't become the person that she wanted to be. Okay, so, I have some, questions, after this passage. It says, how did ghafla creep into Selma's life? How is it preventing her akhirah focus, and what advice do you have for Selma? Does one person want to volunteer and say what they think about what happened with Selma? Just one person, since our time is getting over. Any volunteer?
Answer what she's asking?
So Selma was a very good, mashallah, she's a good girl. But, as she got more and more, she got her social media accounts, and then she started missing her prayers, and it was hard to wake up for Fajr. So what happened? How did ghafla creep into Selma's life? It's like almost the same thing what I just said. Anybody willing to share? Because sometimes I wish I had time to share more, have more interaction in this.
Oh.
Yes. Is that Sabrine? Sabrine, you want to tell me what you think? It can be YouTube. Everybody's watching YouTube all the time. Even me. I watched YouTube how to make this flower crown.
Can you ask the question again?
Yes, Lena. So I was just asking that little story that I said about this girl named Selma. How did ghafla creep into Selma's life? How is it preventing her from her focus?
I think because all this social media or other things that she was so distracted on things that are more didn't really matter.
Exactly. That is it's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. So Selma, when she got more into getting into the social media, she started getting distracted. So even though she knows it's important to pray on time and do all this, she started filling her mind with whatever's on the social media, right? And then it distracted her. And that is exactly what ghafla is. It doesn't mean, no one is saying that never get on like YouTube or social media. That's not the point. The point is that don't get so consumed that you forget the main purpose and that you forget your fard. Your fard, we still have to do our fard. And that is basically, just that story that I wanted to share. I know that, we have a quick Kahoot. So today I started preparing a little, it's gonna be like a little knowledge competition, because over these next couple of weeks, we're gonna go over some of the important parts of our prayer, which is like that strengthening that muscle that we were talking about in our spirituality. So maybe we'll share that another day. Another day I'll go over some of the topics, and you're gonna get a full detail on what those topics are. I also, at some point, wanted to share with you those people who did a great job on the Ramadan challenge on the app, because we hadn't had a chance to bring that up yet. But we will, when we have, inshallah, another day when we have time, we will bring that up. Let's go over to the Kahoot really quick, and at least we can try to finish by 3:45. I'm sorry for keeping it so long. So if everybody can pull up their Kahoot game. And for those who joined later, I was, as I'm sharing this Kahoot game with you, the reason that we're wearing the crown today is because we want to remember and renew our intention that every girl here, inshallah, we want to be a queen in Jannah. We want to be a queen in Jannah. And I actually have some, so here's the Kahoot. Am I sharing the screen yet? I don't know. Let's see if I'm sharing the screen. Okay, so as I'm sharing the screen, and it is 562-6519, I will share with you a little bit about in Jannah. We are going to have, well, so there's clothing, jewelry, there's a lot of, there is a lot of description of Jannah. I think I accidentally, okay, can you still see this? Okay, let's go back to the Kahoot screen. So in Jannah, you know, inshallah, we want to be those people in Jannah who wear crowns in Jannah, and that is where we want to be as Muslim girls, Muslim women one day. So we want to renew our intention, and we want to make sure that that is where, you know, we look forward to having our palace and our servants and our beautiful, you know, goblets of gold. And that is a home that we want to look forward to being in. So that is why Asma and me, Asma, you took her out. Girl, put it back on. This is Asma's crown and this is my crown. So just a little reminder to ourselves. Okay, 562-6519. All right, so far we have 10 players.
Lena the Kiwi has evolved to be Lena
What happened to the music on Kahoot? Does that mean So Asma, isn't the music, the little goofy music, isn't it supposed to keep playing? Okay, so we have 10. Let's go ahead and start then. 562-6519 and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hopefully the goofy music will come back on. I kind of missed that goofy music. Okay, number 1, miserliness is withholding obligatory spending and refusing to pay zakat for fear of poverty, refusing to spend on your spouse and children, or all of the above. What is miserliness? The answer is all of the above. Okay, so miserliness is all of those things where you do not spend the way that you're supposed to. Let's go to the next question. Number 2, heedlessness is defined as what? Not care enough about the reality according to Islam, not care to practice or the duties to the standard, to be preoccupied with worldly thoughts, or all of the above. What is heedlessness? All of the above, exactly. So it's all of those things are heedlessness. Doing good, girls. Number 3, wantonness is uncontrolled desire to lie and cheat on a test, to take revenge on an enemy, to pray all day and night, or need and want more. What is wantonness? We talked about that, and it's to always need and want more, like you're never satisfied. The next question, number 4, a treatment for wantonness is running, fasting, sleeping, or shopping. What is one example of a treatment? Running, fasting, sleeping, or shopping. Help us to control our desire. So fasting helps us to control our desire. Okay, it helps to tame us. Is just one of the examples. Number 5, the Arabic word for heedlessness is what? Hijrah, sunnah, ghafla, or tayammum. What's the Arabic word for heedlessness? And the answer is ghafla. Excellent, excellent, excellent. I hope that we have that word drilled in our mind by the end of this. Number 6, a lack of attention to doing important acts of worship properly is what? Tawakkul, ghafla, zina, riba. What is a lack of attention to doing important acts of worship? Yes, the answer is ghafla. That is when you're not doing your worship attentively. Next, doing great, girls. Number 7, an example of ghafla for prayer is what? Memorizing 30 juz surahs to prepare, scrolling through social media to forget the prayer time, being extra careful in wudu, or denying the obligation that a Muslim has for prayer. So the correct answer is if you're scrolling through social media and forget the prayer time. So that's an example of ghafla. It's not denying the obligation, because denying is a very clear black and white thing. The dangerous thing about ghafla is you're kind of saying, yes, I'm going to do it, but you're not really putting your all into it the way you're supposed to. Okay, let's see next. You guys are doing great. Number 8, having good company can help relieve ghafla because why? Your friends will remind you to do your fard. Your friends will not let you err. A good company will not encourage you to do evil or all of the above. And this one got 20 seconds, but having good company can help. How does it help to have good company? Is this too loud for y'all? Am I the only one that thinks the music helps? Okay, so that's true. All of those things are benefits of having good company, and it's going to help to remind you to do the right thing, okay? MashaAllah, good job, and we're almost done. Number 9, how many times are we encouraged to do istighfar or seek repentance? 1 to 3 times a day, 70 to 100 times a day, 1,000 times a day, or just once a year in Laylatul Qadr? We are encouraged to do istighfar 70 to 100 times a day, okay? And by the way, you don't have to just sit and do istighfar. You can walk, you can drive, you can be washing your dishes, doing what you normally do, and keep doing the istighfar. And after any further action that we do, we can do istighfar, because in order to purify the sins we make. Number 10, one way to treat heedlessness is to read the Quran more and reflect upon the meaning. Is that true or false? One way to treat heedlessness is to read the Quran more. Oh, you guys all got it right. You guys are powerful. You guys are going to be the next queens of Jannah, inshallah. So all of y'all did great. We have Maliha, mashallah. Congratulations to Maliha. Fatima Mujtaha got 8 out of 8. 10 out of 10, mashallah. Arisa, very, very, very good. You guys did great, mashallah. We also have Hania and Asma Islam. That is excellent, mashallah. And I know all of you guys did great. I apologize for taking a little bit more time today. We're going to do a quick dua. Now we want the music off for the dua. Okay, very good. So we have, inshallah, we have finished our objective for today. Let's do a quick dua. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik shadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and we'll see you next time, inshallah.
Thank you, bye.